Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Perfect.
in my business. Okay.
So now it's on.
Okay. On. Getting it done.
I'm gonna leave it on for you.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to call to order the Village of Marvin Parks Recreation and Greenways meeting here on Tuesday, September 13th at 9:02 a.m. First item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. So I do determine that we have a quorum with myself, Christina, Bob, and Jen. And the adoption of the agenda. Any questions regarding the agenda or edits or anything else? Do I hear a motion on the table to adopt the agenda as it is written? So moved. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Do they need to press when they?
But then you kind of not start thinking out loud. Like they read your thoughts. Okay.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the adoption of the previous minutes for July 12th, 2022 and August 2nd of 2022.
And August 2nd is just a statement saying that that meeting was canceled.
That it was canceled, yeah. So any changes requested for the July 12th meeting? Do I hear a motion on the table to adopt the July 12th, 2022 minutes and August 2nd, 2022 minutes as they are written?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Next is public comment period. And
Public, no comment.
no public, no comment. Moving on to public facilities manager update. We've got Derek here. So first item is National Night Out recap.
All right, so I've got a nice long list here. I'm gonna try to go through it pretty quickly. But if you have a question or comment, let me know. So starting with National Night Out, if you were there, you saw we had one of our biggest and best events ever. Jill did a tremendous job recruiting some sponsors that, added flavor to the event. Changed it up with a DJ who, engaged the kids in dancing. We ran out of food. We had to go get more food. We learned some lessons. We gave out a lot of desserts, which were a huge hit. And I would say 500 people.
How did we do with the parking?
Parking was an issue. We were making up spots on the fly.
It's amazing.
It was
So you always like, how can we get more people? Well,
Yeah.
We got them.
we got them.
Puppies. You know what to do with them. Puppies.
No, I think that's
Advertising, we were ahead of it. We had multiple banners out. We had activities to draw people in, but the movie night, and the games, and having a big inflatable obstacle course. So it was a great event. Any questions about that?
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Friendship tree update. This was the sort of angel tree, giving tree thing that Bob brought to us. He, Jill, Austin, and I met and just kind of laid out a timeline for that. Bob, do you want to say anything on that or wait till next meeting?
Well, I can just bring people up to speed real quick.
Make sure you speak up in towards
Okay,
the mic.
well,
so they can pick it up.
just real quick, I think we're going to call it the friendship tree, as we talked about earlier. Angel tree is copyrighted; we can't use it. So anyway, the tree goes up October 25th, correct, Eric? I think that's what we said.
Yeah, it's that.
And then I'll get, on November the 1st, thereabout, I'll get all the tags from Laura, who's with the Christmas Bureau in Union County. And we settled on 30 tags initially, and that we would go back and get more if necessary. We are going to talk about the friendship tree on October the 29th at the HOA President's meeting. And we're going to try to get all the neighborhoods involved in
September 29th.
September 29th. And then registration will be Monday through Thursday, 10 to 2. And that's where people can come in. And Jill's going to coordinate the registration with people getting their names, what families they're going to get, making sure that if somebody hasn't returned a bag, we know who they are and we can prompt them to return their bag and gifts. And if people don't do their gifts, we know that's not going to happen. If we can turn the tag back into Union County, hopefully that won't be the case. Drop off will occur, and Kim recommended this, November, I believe it's the 5th, no, pardon me, December 5th through the 9th. There'll be about a 5-day period in which people will drop off their bags here. We'll collect them, and the gifts will be taken to Union County. And I've been kind of out of pocket the last 2 or 3 weeks, so I've got some catching up to do on this, but luckily we got plenty of time.
So,
One thing usually on that list for HO, do you know if communications gone?
Nothing's gone out yet.
29?
Nothing.
I just want to make sure.
No, Mike Gilboy hasn't anything out yet.
so for the friendship tree for that, I know that council's gonna decorate it after our work session meeting on the 27th. So we'll be here, I mean, we've got it scheduled at 11, but our work sessions tend to go longer than 2 hours. So, we'll be here decorating, if anybody wants to come by and help, but we'll be here doing that
On the
then.
27th.
On the 27th, yep, of October.
All right, thank you, Bob.
Yep.
When are we gonna start advertising this?
I'd have to check the sheet.
Well,
Friendship tree. I have to look at what me and Bob drew up, but it's gonna be very soon, starting with the newsletter.
Okay, good, okay, good.
we're going to do the advertising starting in October.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Moving on. So right after we decorate on the 27th, we have an event at the park on the 28th. Jill and I have met a couple times, laid out sort of a structure, what that event would look like. I sent you guys sort of like a summary email. Appreciate your comments and feedback. Everything is moving in motion for that to happen. So it'll be a fun event with a number of vendors setting up a little booth for the kids to trunk or treat in. And then we'll have a movie afterwards. Going to show Hocus Pocus. Not a cartoon, little, maybe target just a little bit older audience. It's one of the most popular Halloween movies that a production company rents out. And it's short. It's like 90 minutes. So 8:30, 9, boom, we're out of there. But again, that's Friday, October 28th. We're advertising the event from 5 to 7 and then movie at dusk. And then just mark your calendars for Saturday, December 10th, second Saturday of December for the tree lighting event. We'll advertise it from 4 to 6. We don't always go to 6. That event has kind of looked different throughout the past couple of years. So if you have any ideas or thoughts or groups that you want to be involved, just let me know. We used to do singing groups and musical performances and dance groups and high school choirs. And last year we shifted to more of just like musical performances, sort of background music. So I'm just open to any thoughts or ideas. If we want to formally discuss it at the next meeting, we can. 4 is what we've always done traditionally. Is Saturday, December 10th.
We start the,
Let me check, make sure. that's right.
at 2:30, right?
So, thank you. Great question. Do we want to do the parade again in the same fashion where we drive them around? I don't, I mean, that style of parade was created because of COVID, right? Where people didn't have to gather. So,
How many people show up for the parade?
yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. I'm never there, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm always at ground zero.
Yeah.
But I've heard great things.
Oh,
Even so much where like some neighborhoods are like, hey, why weren't we included? So try to do, okay.
And I would kind of do it the same, start Village Hall, go through, unfortunately, this side, but then end up at the park, but tell people, hey, you can come park at Fire Court and watch them come through. Here's the map, you can come park at the schools in Pittsburgh. I mean, I'll get permission for us to advertise for that.
Yeah.
But I think that having that, everybody wants to go to the tree line, I understand that.
Mhm.
I wish more people would, but I thought last year was great. But I think this gives an opportunity for people to kind of get out and kind of really get in that holiday season, like just with their neighbors. I thought it was great.
could we include the SPCA at the tree lining?
Every turn.
I just think that's the perfect time of year.
I think they're there.
Yeah. But I think having that just attracts a lot of people.
It was the busiest group at National Night Out. There were
Really?
constantly people. We watched it, right? There were constantly people over there. Like,
Sometimes me.
What's
I would like to know how many dogs.
well, good point.
And they need to bring more.
Okay.
Is the intent to have someone reach out to the choir and the band again specifically? Because I know we've typically included them and they just kind of need to set a calendar because they do other things.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd like to, you have the contact, go ahead.
I know I do for the choir. Somebody else did the band.
I've had a communication with the IB program.
Yeah,
There's a group within that has a band. They
Okay.
recently did like a concert at the barn as a fundraiser
Mhm.
and said, if we wanted them to come for the tree lighting, that they could do Christmas songs.
that'd be great.
I know of a local recording artist who was scheduled to perform last year, but she got COVID and, probably be glad to come back this year. So,
Yeah.
We just have to have music. I'm thinking like instrumental singing, not DJ music.
oh yeah, no, we don't, yeah,
Usually we just do it to kind of fill in the blanks.
none of that. Yeah.
I think we just did Christmas music
Mhm.
on the, pipe through in between the other acts, which,
Okay.
Well, if you want to get people to show up as well, if their kids are singing, parents
Yeah.
show up.
Yeah.
So,
so I'll reach out to the choir. Was there somebody that reached out to the band last year that knew?
Sounds
Oh, it would have been Joe. That's right. Yeah. I know he has contacts with them.
Okay.
And I'll reach out to the choir because I know those folks.
All right. Marvin Day updates. So one thing I wanted to let you guys know about that is council met, they discussed multiple date and location and structure options. And where we are is we're going to have the event on Saturday, June 3rd, primarily at the park with no parking at the park. I know, sounds a little crazy, but that's the goal that we're going for. So,
where are people parking?
well, that's
Okay.
You've got a job to do. No, we're gonna look
That'll be
at,
fun.
yeah, we're gonna look at, the field next to the fire station, Publix parking lot with shuttle, high school with shuttle, elementary school with shuttle. We've got to work out those logistics, but with everything that they were trying to balance and figure out the best solution, which I love the idea of the park not having cars in it, is, at the park, all grounds are walkable, no safety issues. Concert and fireworks there.
Yeah, the reason that we're doing this is because the high school cannot commit to any date until later in June or July. And by that point, it's too hot, people are out of town, and it's just too much. And so we didn't want to have to wait until basically like January or February to pick a date, like it's too late to do that. So that's the reason we kind of shifted from doing anything with high school and kind of having everything on. Just so you guys know.
So the high school, I mean, it used to be, they did graduations at Winthrop. Now this past year, they did it on site, but they did it weekday. But they just don't know when they're gonna do it.
They will not commit to anything until later on in the school year, unless it's late June or July.
Okay.
What activities will be part of Marvin Day again this year?
We're gonna let you know that. We have a meeting today after this with the Marvin Day
Okay.
committee, and then we're gonna go from there, and we'll be reaching out to some people in that committee. We'll be reaching out to like subcommittees, or we're gonna call them working groups. And
Okay.
it'll basically look very similar, just with the tweaks, improvements, let's call it.
All right.
So, just a quick update on Village Hall lighting. I'm not even sure if you guys were briefed on that beforehand, but recently staff, along with Councilmember Wortman, did a great job putting in some low voltage lighting around the building. So if you're driving by at night, check those out. It looks great. For the most part, it has the potential to work.
Except when it rains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And kind of a transition, the next phase of that equipment purchase will be putting similar lighting in at the park. So I think there's 17 posts that will go in at the park to help with lighting the parking lot for that dusk dark time right at the end of the day.
So my question to that is it on 24/7? At night?
No, it could be.
I don't
But it
want it
won't
to
be.
be. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually really disruptive to wildlife. believe it
Yeah,
or not,
no, it
and
would-
human life.
Yeah, come on at dark and probably set the timer between 2 and 4 hours.
Yeah, especially in the winter, I get that dusky kind of thing because it happens really early.
I
but-
tell you, that walk between the barn and the parking lot is awfully dark.
Yeah.
That's good news.
That's what the app on your phone is for. It's called
Mm.
flashlight.
Steve Jobs thought of everything. That's the reason he made the big bucks, you're right.
No big update with Eagle Scout projects, just that the compost bin was put in at the park. And Bob did a great job coordinating with the young lady who built that and getting that put out there. And then the last thing, so
Can I ask you one question?
Yep.
Just so I'm up to speed. The last thing we talked about, and I just want to make sure in terms of new projects for Eagle Scouts, and those were the signs for the trailheads. Is that correct? Trailhead signs?
honestly, Bob, I can't remember. Yeah. That does sound familiar. Did we add that to the website or?
Trailhead markers, picnic tables and benches for Pocket Park and fitness trail stations. That was the three that's on there.
What was it?
Trailhead markers, picnic tables and benches for the future Pocket Park and fitness trail stations. That's what's currently on there.
I have one more addition to the park projects. We've had a member of the IB group at the high school offer to get their group together, which can be 25 people, for a work day at the park. We've settled on 11/5, which is a Saturday. We'll probably do like 9 to 11. Honestly, it's hard to keep 25 people busy much longer than that. I mean, you just run out of things to do, which is an awesome problem. But to Austin's point several times over the summer, if we want to open that up to anybody, I mean, sure, we'll take grown adults as well.
So just let me
Actually,
know what
anybody.
your goals are, if you need, mulch or sand
Right,
or
right. And I'm going to
whatever.
talk to, I got to kind of figure out what we need. I'm not sure
Yeah.
that we need much of anything except clean up, but I'll know better
Okay.
soon.
All right. Last item, big animal. So park master plan bid updates. As you know, one of our goals for this year was to replace the playground equipment. Council dedicated some money for that. Before we could do that, we said we needed a master plan to help guide us in what the potential of the park could be, and to possibly chase some grant funding. So we put out a request for proposals for park master plans. We got back 4 bids, which was great. Those will be presented to council tonight, and they'll discuss it and select a vendor to move into negotiations with. So a lot of good bids, very detailed, pleased with all of them. And so I tell you guys this because once we, sign that contract, enter into that agreement, you guys will be heavily involved in the scope of the project. What parks, what pieces of property do we want to focus on? What details do we want in that? So I'm excited for that. We're going to try to expedite it.
So this is a broad, not just the one park that we have. This is looking at.
We kind of started with that and then changed the scope to include,
Any potential.
correct me if I'm wrong, but we added the pocket park. We added this property, the other half of the property here, like the farmer's market
Mhm.
potential side, and then the possibility of the Jones Homes property.
Yeah, we did include that as we gave it, the RFP went out prior to the rezoning being approved. So we put the information in from the rezoning of the development of the acreage and basically stated that this was an optional, or it was tied in with the RFP. But yes, the intent is basically like if we have the flexibility based off the language in the RFP to add that into the scope of the total plan.
But it was just focused to those and not looking for more land or anything. It's
Correct.
kind of taking what we have now,
Yeah.
kind of
Because
focusing.
the Pulte
Or potentially.
park thing that's been in discussion by council, I mean, that was another one that I can't remember if we mentioned in the RFP or if we left, like I said, we then just made the language vague that we have either property based off of being donated through development or other properties that we have been in discussion with that could be added to the scope. And basically, so it would just add to the hourly rate of the project for them to add in and provide their recommendations on those specific, land for park and recreation development.
The only thing I was going to additionally note is that we are going to sort of try to expedite this project so that we can go after the grant funding next spring. And that's part of the contract negotiation is like, hey, we have this expectation that we can kind of make this happen pretty fast. And, was it April or May or March?
Yeah, it's end of April, I think.
End of April, that we would try to chase the part of funding. So,
So this probably be on our agenda for next month.
yeah.
Okay.
And every month afterwards.
No, that's
if not,
That's-
in
Well, for a
some form
while.
or fashion, but yeah. So,
I'd rather do it fast.
yeah, that's exciting though. Especially if we can get that money. All right, I'm done.
Good job.
Okay, any other questions for Derek here?
He's got to go take a nap.
Okay. Moving on to item number C1, unfinished business is discussion of village hall tree, stream bed, and landscaping improvements. And Hunter?
Yeah, I wish there, because we took some great photos. We had a river and a moat going just.
Well, I have those photos that I took that I pasted on top of the plans that were attached.
Yeah,
Those
so
are not, you're not gonna be able to zoom it, but I have them on my phone.
I know we haven't talked about this in probably about 3 months. So just to recap is, we're looking to do, as in we, the village, is looking to do improvements here with this like natural kind of drainage area channel out here. We had some recommendations from Keith. I'm kind of just like a generic kind of like stream bed and some plantings, all this. Jim's went together and put together some plans. So I appreciate that. Really, the next steps are kind of like discussing what's being proposed to an extent. Talk about, I guess, specific plantings that I know that PR&G has requested, / just getting some of that input. And then I guess we'll either potentially have to take it to council. So I'll have to talk with Christina on the next steps on actually then implementing the plan. I will state, based off of some of the stuff I saw yesterday, one idea that I had, and I don't know, this would actually be talking with DOT. And if you looking at the packets, it's the stream bed 2 or stream bed plans 2 attachment, which looks great. My concern is, even like yesterday, we got in about a 30-minute time frame, you had a full river going through there. Which the intent is obviously to make it a natural channel and make it where it's deeper, where some of the water kind of consistently flows and not you have rapids running through. Where that outflow, that drainage pipe that comes across the road right here, one thought is, like, if you guys notice, we have a ditch line and riprap that runs around Newtown and Marvin School Road. Part of me would want to consult with DOT and see if there's a way to get a majority of that flowed that way. We can still do this project, but then we wouldn't have to maybe be as
Aggressive about how much water we're channeling.
correct. Yeah, I think it's the bathroom. But I agree, like, we can still make something cool here where you're still gonna have some overflow / like you can still divert some minor.
Yes, I have my old video. Yeah, that's what my video looked like too, but that's back when it was dry. I mean, when it had no grass.
I'm gonna just take this around. So
Yep.
everybody can just kind of peek at our full river that we had going.
Wow,
Right.
yeah, right up against the side.
Unfortunately, that's more common than not around here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when it hits the drainage right here, right now around the building, there's literally a moat around the building. When I came and photographed in that last rainstorm, I was waiting. I had to, unfortunately, I had, sandals on. I had to go my jeans and just to get up there, I had to
Well,
wade
yeah,
across quite a
that's-
stream.
That's kind of the issue. So when it comes in right here, it goes this way and this way. Well, this way,
This way pools, this way drained a little faster.
yeah, this way pools / and runs off to the back side of the property just naturally.
Where there's kind of a natural trench back there.
Yeah. But when it gets overflowing like it did yesterday, it does.
It comes
flood
all the way up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Here it goes this way, and then either runs that way it goes to the same ditch and channel. It just depends on which side.
Right.
Which I've got to talk with DOT anyway, because this side's working great.
Mhm.
That side needs to be cleaned out or something, because it's the vegetation's grown in it, and so it's shallowed the depth of so it's just creating a pond in like a second. Like, it doesn't matter how much rain you get. But that's a thought that I literally had like leaving yesterday. I know we've been talking about this, but I think my concern is that if we do something like this, you're not going. We might not be able to really channel the water or
Channel as much as we need to with that
It's
plan.
going to have to be more of a complex process. Like it might
Mhm.
require a little bit more actual physical plans and study. I mean, not say study, just like an engineer, actual
Mhm.
type thing.
Right.
if I have DOT come out and say, hey, yeah, we can divert this culvert a little bit where then it does channel majority of it down that natural or the existing ditch line, we can still do something like this, but then we're not worried about, once again, making sure it functions perfectly because of the issue it's creating around Village Hall. Did you want to show them any videos from yesterday? I know Austin went around showing.
Yeah, but I believe you.
Yeah, it's a thing. For
Well,
sure.
I live with
well-
this at my house, so I get it.
And even yesterday, I mean, it was for X period of time.
It was a
There's
pretty
been
short one.
Yeah, there's been times when we have extended, gully washers.
Yeah, or we get
sort of
a
could
hurricane
be
remnant
worse.
go through that, prolongs it. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Well, part of it is a soils problem, part of it is a new construction problem. And yeah, that's the soils problem, absolutely. And, especially compacted ground that has nothing on it, right? And so other than soil, it's compacted is concrete.
Hunter, when you talk to your experience with the DOT, and I agree, getting them involved, does that delay the project a great deal, or do you think that speeds the project up?
Yes and no. I think we can go ahead and start doing, if it's getting the natural, whatever vegetation and plantings, what type of landscaping we're going to have done out there, go ahead and getting ahead of that. Because there's already a natural channel. I don't know if we want to get to the actually maybe trying to dig out the channel and swap. Like that any deeper. I don't know.
Well, I have a couple things that I'll share with everybody about that. But go ahead.
But ultimately, it doesn't necessarily delay the project. It just, once again, if they want to help us out and work with us to get that diverted to an extent, all that does is potentially help where it doesn't take, I don't think it then makes the project as long or as, like I said, complex on our end. So it's kind of a.
So it's worth
It sounds like it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I just think that if we can get a majority of that diverted, then we can still have this nice, pretty landscaping area out here, but it's actually then not the area of concern of actually getting, like I said, functioning for not flooding.
So do you try to get up with DOT today, show them that video?
Yeah.
You guys have this right on, we complained about it, they put that there. And even before we built this building, we knew that was gonna be a problem. Obviously, it's a little bit more than we thought it was gonna be. But try to get that, try to at least get that conversation started today.
I can.
Because if we're gonna plant stuff, it's coming up in the time we need to do it, and I don't wanna wait till next fall to do this.
Yeah.
I don't wanna keep pushing this stuff off, we've gotta get it done, it looks like, especially if it rains, any sort of progress we make, it's just gone. A lot of rain in winter, and so if we can get that started, and then go ahead and start with our next step. So Jen, what are your suggestions? What do you think?
Okay, so let me give you guys since it has been a while since we addressed this, let me give you sort of a little recap as to what happened and where I left it and the questions are. Obviously, we need to drain, and I think it's a great idea if we can divert the vast majority of the water elsewhere to that front drainage, in which case then we are back to, with this just being sort of a backup or handling a smaller amount of water. So partly it's decorative, but also functional. So when we last as a group here talked about it, Keith made his presentation, and I guess it had originally been proposed as a rain garden. He said, you don't really want a rain garden, limit your plant palette, and probably not the best solution for this. You should do the dry creek bed. So I volunteered to do some stuff, started laying some stuff out on paper, found out that the trees from the site plan for Village Hall didn't match the trees that were left out there. So then I had a little bit of a delay because I had to try and map those out myself. And while I was out there taking photos in a rain event, I ran into Andy Wortman, and he was indicating some things that I hadn't been aware of. Maybe Hunter can comment on this, was that we didn't necessarily need to leave those trees. So I had been originally thinking we were going to do a dry creek bed. Right now, the water channel, the natural water channel runs right between the trees. And And when I asked Keith about, like, is that an okay thing to stay with that natural and just make it formal? He said, only if it's within, outside of 10 feet of the trunk, right? And could be hand dug. The problem is that those trees are closer than 10. There isn't 20 feet of space to be 10 feet away from the trunks. So in the drawing that I did, which I have the copies here, I put the dry creek bed originally around the trees, far enough away. Then when I ran into Andy, he was saying that the trees were likely to get removed anyway. Some of them are not healthy specimens. And that in that case, when those stumps are ground, it will create a basin. And he was imagining a basin with a willow tree in the center and essentially a rain garden that we could expand the plant palette of a rain garden by having irrigation in the dry times. And it's explained that irrigation out there was available. So that kind of left me with, I don't know what to design because I was getting conflicting information. And so I drew up a very just slightly elevated back of the napkin kind of sketch for the dry creek bed. And also I drew up a separate plan where you could still have the organic shape of the dry creek bed. But if we were talking about a basin, I just came up with an alternate design that was more geometric because of the very strict symmetry of the building. So I drew up those two plans. I guess the fundamental question is, oh, and then he wanted to have some of it piped underground from a catch basin so that we could preserve a walkway to the farmer's market that I guess is going on that side of the property or proposed to be on that side of the property at some point. So all of those considerations taken together, I guess the fundamental question is, are we removing those trees such that we don't need to work around them? Or are we preserving the majority of the trees and we do need to go around them? And are we doing a basin? Are we doing a rain basin or are we doing a dry creek bed? So those are kind of the two fundamental questions.
And I'll add, per our ordinance, we can remove the trees. It is just recommended and the full intent is to save those trees.
That's good to hear.
So with that being said, my recommendation is that, I mean, if we need to consult with Keith a little bit further to get his input on the health of the trees / all of that, like if they are worth saving, then let's save them and just run with the natural. I
agree. I think there are a couple trees there that do not, at least in my so expert opinion, don't look like they're worth it, but definitely to get his opinion, definitely I think some of them are. I mean,
I'm sure Keith is happy to tell us which ones.
Yeah.
That's his job.
I know Andy.
And unless all of them are coming out.
Then you're back to your other plan.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
as long as even like two
Pretty
trees are
binary.
staying,
Yeah.
then we're back to the plan where it goes around and then there's sort of a waterfall catch basin kind of thing right here at the front. And then that feeds into that direction, a pipe that goes to the drainage
And
collection.
frankly, trees will suck up a ton of water. I mean,
Exactly. I mean, we'll still have all of that sheeting stuff when it's rapidly
Sure,
coming
yeah.
down, but yeah, anything.
But your plan is gonna solve some of that problem.
Definitely, because
Right?
there'll be a catch basin that won't be an attractive nuisance because it won't hold water, when it's dry. It's just, it will be a basin to catch overflow while it's an active event.
And as long as it's gone in 3 days, it can stand there for 3 days. If it's gone in 3, then you don't have mosquito problems.
Yeah, and my anticipation is that it would be gone within hours. I mean, if it's designed properly, it should be gone within an hour of the event, at least on the surface. You should have no
Right, right,
ponding
right.
water on the surface.
And then the trees will take care of the rest.
Yeah, exactly. So, I can progress to a much more formal, neat, but at this point I was doing so much editing and thinking on paper.
Well, you've got too many different
Yeah,
directions.
there was too much more.
So the
too much
committee's
options.
recommendation is to have Keith come out, assess the health of the trees, and if possible, save the trees. So we don't deforest.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes, sir.
that's my recommendation. I mean,
That's
I
mine too.
know Andy's mentioned with
Thanks for being here,
weeping
Bob.
willow. I'm not 100% sure. I think between Derek and I, we've been told, or just miscommunication, because I know that Andy's walked it with Derek a few times and vice versa, or even with Keith. If there's a way to incorporate them all, I mean, great, but I think ultimately we need to preserve what's there, because we've already done, we've done a lot of clearing out there already. I mean, a lot of it was underbrush. I mean, there wasn't a lot of major things removed. So it'd just be my recommendation, especially with what was selected to be left. I think they were selected for a reason when we all walked the property anyway. So I can definitely reach out to him, get him out here within the next week or two.
Yeah, the one thing when he's out here, I know, when I cleared land for a pasture, I left as many trees kind of around, but even then, after that work, you really never know what you're going to end up losing from that, because it can be
It could be
2-3
years.
years later.
Absolutely.
And it seems like most of them didn't happen at first. It was 2 or 3 years later. when
And that's
all of a sudden-
post-construction. Yeah, you're absolutely
Yeah.
right.
And that's why, I mean, I think we try to roll with what we got. And I mean, if something happens to them, and once again, they can always be replaced. I know that compared to the Weeping Willow plan and kind of having compared to the natural one, I mean, but I mean, if they're worth saving I mean, we've been in here for what, 6-8 months now. And with all the activity that's happened out there, I mean, Keith can potentially identify, I mean, at least.
Yeah,
What,
absolutely.
and especially knowing that he's walked this property numerous times now, so he's going to be able to identify, oh, that looks different, or something looks.
He may be able to tell you from his office.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying, you already know.
He knows.
But I'd like to follow up on Kim's point. Are we going to put a timetable together in terms of completion date on this project? Because we do have a window.
Mhm.
We got
And
fall
I
and we got
agree with
spring.
Kim, sooner than later, we need to navigate the water, stop the erosion, decide what we're gonna do. And if we don't put a timetable to this, Hunter, at least in my opinion, is we find ourselves delayed. So.
And I think you can plant as late as, don't you think, late November? Well, yeah, but for fall.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you could do November, not a
Or
problem.
December.
Yeah.
Our winters are so mild right now.
So I know from a staff level, I can consult with DOT, talk to Keith, have all that information for you guys at your October meeting. However, do we need to take that, then do we need to provide I mean, I'm asking you if we need to put together recommendations of plantings, all that stuff, or then it's submitted to council for final approval?
So I'm 99% sure that the last one that I brought this to council, I said, we're gonna do it. We're gonna pick the plants,
And you're gonna love it.
and you guys are gonna be okay with it. Is everybody okay with this? And I heard no objections to that.
So
let
be
me
it.
first say, Jen, I apologize if you got conflicting information.
Not a problem.
You should not have done that. No, I'm serious. You should not.
Okay.
He is not speaking for council. I'm the one that said, came back, recorded, and said, this is what we're planning on doing. If we're picking the plans, we're picking what's going in there. Does anybody have a problem with it? We gotta fix the issues. You have issues. So I'm sorry for that. I'm gonna say no, because I already, and again, I'm 99% sure, Austin, if you could help me find that information in a meeting, I will reiterate that tonight, but we do not, I don't care what they do there. It's not looking like what it looked like yesterday.
Right.
The apocalypse?
So,
Right.
I don't care. I had nobody that said that they care in that meeting. Maybe it wasn't in that meeting, I don't know. But I do not think that we need to go through, because I've already said, we're gonna get this done, or you guys good with it, because it has to be done.
You might, and I'll have to.
I mean, we might have to,
Yeah.
the budgetary situation.
I was about to say.
but not plans.
Yeah, and that's fine too. I mean, like I said, we can, this is now outside of my area of expertise, what type of plants and everything. So it's like, if we want to work on those recommendations today, I'd be happy to then, like I said, encompass that all with maybe consult with Keith and putting it together.
I think, me personally, because again, I want to get this done. I'm tired of looking at that, tired of what happened with the yesterday. It needs to get fixed. my suggestion is let's figure out what plants we want to there. I don't know, I don't care, as long as it looks pretty. More color, better. But let's figure out what we need in terms of plants, let's figure out what we need in terms of material, like rocks, stone, sand, whatever we need, I don't know. Let's put that into whatever we might need, let's put that together, give it to Derek, say, Derek, go out and get us quotes, 3 people for the material costs and the labor costs, and let's make a decision in October. We'll bring it to council in terms of approval for the monetary piece of it, and you start it in October.
We could also put it on your work session for the budget amendment, because we'll kind of have a rough estimate based on the votes. Yeah.
That's where I'm going with this.
Okay.
This needs to get done, and then, again, let's get the experts on what trees need to come out, what trees don't.
Well, based on what we've just discussed here, I'm going to operate on the assumption that even if all the trees had to come out, we would plant them, replant them. And that it's really unlikely that all of them will need to come out. Yeah. Yes. And you can, I have this, I apologize, that scan is appalling.
In our notes, is it page 14? Because they're not, yes, that's it.
Yeah.
This is the plan. Go ahead and pass that over.
I can't see the names.
There are no plant names put in
No,
there.
no, I mean the name of the.
Yeah.
Oh, not 10 minutes.
Yeah, no, it's a bit more involved than that, but what I can do is I can put this together, well, I can work off of this. But I can put together a preliminary list and send it to this group and get their input. And yeah, we can get quantities and species and a planting plan put together. I mean, it won't be like today, but we can put that together.
What you've got there, okay, then let's send it to Derek.
Yes.
You might need to.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
You might need to reach out to one person at a time, though, doing it that way, just so that we're not.
BCC.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And even, like I said, I'll take a little. You guys are more, expert on some of these planting stuff than I am.
He's actually really good. Keith is really good with plants in general. He's a native guy, so he's gonna.
No, I think we should definitely default to natives of where
When you can.
And the other thing that I wanted to include in there was some evergreens, because right now everything out there is deciduous.
So we have these lovely things called Christmas ferns that are evergreen.
Mhm.
That grow wild in the woods.
Mhm.
So that is something, and it's
Yeah,
lovely.
and that's a great option for low. And then I was thinking about putting, and then actually you could decorate it for Christmas if you have,
Autumn fringe.
some pines or
Yeah, but definitely just regular pines do
Eastern red
really well
cedar,
here.
something.
And some people don't love cedars, but birds love cedars.
Cedars drink a ton of water.
With this soil?
Yeah, so I'm defaulting where practicable to native stuff, and that's where we can get together and discuss actual things. So
Just to a sense of urgency, I am out of, the country starting next Monday
okay,
for 2 weeks. And then,
And the other thing I'll mention, which I don't know if it's worth, part of the material cost and stuff too, is that, which I'm talking with DOT, like I said, about this ditch right here.
Mhm.
If they're not gonna do anything about that, then potentially we either will use leftover / do some more, because it all ties into where it's flowing.
yes,
And so that ditch, it needs this side of the ditch, the left side, needs to be like manicured in some way.
nice.
Well, I think, I mean, like I said, I just looked out there, like, if we can get it to channel down the main ditch line.
If we can just run it down from where you're talking about the culvert pipe that comes out the
Yeah.
road here, if we can just, while we're doing this, have somebody dig a trench that ties to the riprap on the corner,
Yeah.
that'll take a significant portion of this away.
And
And
that's
then
just.
this
the
is
thing,
just
too.
backup.
I guess part of the question is that we can do that, the question is that I'm gonna ask DOT to see what they're, or if they do anything. DOT? I honestly don't think they're gonna care.
Well, I mean, if you look at this plan here, I've just put a dotted line in from where this pipe comes out to the end of the riprap is, I don't have my scale with me in my bag, but
We can go out there. I was,
I was gonna say 50 feet.
my thought is if I can. I don't know if they're gonna pay for it. I'm gonna ask if they'll do something.
Right.
I don't know what that something's gonna be, and then we might have to do, but I'm still. Okay.
Which is now off mic.
I at least can still send an email to them today saying, hey. Did you tell me just a minute ago? Okay.
Okay, so if I may reiterate, my understanding is that we're going to assume that at least some of the trees are saved, so we're gonna go around that. Does anybody have any objections to this preliminary like that? Okay, I will progress with this plan.
I like
with the organic shapes.
because of the structure of the.
I liked the contrast between the organic shape and also just going with what's already there.
Well, that's kind of what nature looks like. It generally doesn't grow in straight lines.
Yeah, exactly. And that was my original kind of preference. So we'll continue with that. I'm excited about that. And then this other planting bed on the other side under the two oaks to balance, because you'll have a planted rocky blah 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 area. And then you don't want just a blank expanse. So to build that out as a mulched bed, and then I'm imagining some kind of turf around those mulched beds, not grass.
So
I have ideas for that too.
just to reiterate, so we're going towards the dry screen bed and maintaining the trees should the urban forester say they're fine.
Yes, that is my understanding. So I'll progress on this. I'll get some input from my other plantophiles here for material.
And if
We
we
are
are,
gonna have some grass around here, are we not, to keep it. But we are gonna try to have some.
Well, if it's anything like my yard, you just let the crabgrass grow and just keep mowing.
but it doesn't look great in the winter. That you'll
No, it doesn't.
I just think, I think her point's well taken earlier, is to have some non-deciduous plants, so we have green out
Oh, yeah.
during the winter. And that's one thing grass does do. It makes- Okay. Okay, I just don't.
Well, that makes it nice. I mean, we don't. Lawns are about the most environmentally. They're least nutritious. It's like the environmental equivalent of a Twinkie.
I heard somebody call it a deadscape.
But they
It's Doug
do-
Talamay who called it a deadscape.
But if you get, a relatively cooperative species, it is a visual field that you can play with. It is, it defines other areas and it's useful because people can walk on it, sit on it, blah, blah, blah. So it serves its purpose, but just, in balance with its detriment.
So you've got a meeting at 11, right?
Yeah, we have a.
So, but if we get done here, we can talk a little bit before your 11.
Perfect.
Is that?
Yep, that is totally fine. So that's my directive. I will develop this a little bit more. I will get input on plants. I will need to touch base again with Keith with regard, or you guys can, based on the dimensions on the plan about the materials. Because I don't remember how deep he said the gravel base needed to be and how deep the trench needed to be.
If you want to email me, I can forward it / we'll get an email thread together where basically I can then send it to him and I'll see the response.
Okay, perfect. Because that, as far as putting together a material bid, I don't specifically have that information, but based on the dimensions on the plan, it could be calculated with his input on depth and gravel and stuff like that. Okay. All right, so that gives me some direction, and our target date for this information is October. Somebody was saying something about a meeting. Right, but that needed to have, you wanted to see that number by?
October 4th. The council meeting is October 11th.
See, PRG October 4th.
But if we want to have, I would recommend, if we can have it probably by the end of September, within 2.5 weeks. Then we can potentially get quotes and all that to bring to you guys for kind of final confirmation, and then we can take it for a budget amendment and then proceed the following week.
It's enough time, which we have to get
Yeah.
moving.
All right. Next, we move on to new business. Item D1 is discussion of wayfinding and branding project.
This is going to be really brief considering most people here are on the committee. But for John and Jen, we've started a wayfinding and branding project for the village.
Okay.
We'll have new logos, banners, really just a new way to show off Marvin's character and identity through visual aids. And we'll have matching signage, directional signage that will lead around the village in the future.
Okay.
But we have a vendor working on this, and we're going to be holding roundtable discussions with different groups in October. And one of those roundtables is for advisory boards. So this is a chance for you to attend, share your ideas on how you perceive Marvin, and that'll help us generate this new brand. Other groups will be holding these roundtables, including the wayfinding committee, staff, property owners, in commercial areas like Marvin Gardens and the Future Heritage District. And we'll also have one with the village council and a public input meeting. But that's going to be on Monday, October 24th at 3:30 p.m. That's for the advisory boards. And if you can't make that one, try to come to the 6:30 p.m. public input meeting because we really want your input.
And there's also a survey going out Friday to anybody that will fill it out.
Yeah,
You said 3:30,
Yeah, 3:30.
and that's the advisory board.
And yeah, that survey will start this Friday. That'll run through October 10th. And we're going to drive people crazy with how much we're talking about it.
Okay.
It's a good survey. It's not painful at all.
That's all I got.
You
Okay.
win.
Next item is E1, which is the review of action items.
The only things I have is Hunter's going to follow up with Keith on the trees for the dry stream bed, and Jen's going to keep working on the plan and get input from you all over the next week or two.
Okay.
Fish the machine.
Review of ongoing action item list.
Have we fixed the water tower at Cottage Garden?
No, we lost our engineer.
But you've done some work there.
Yeah, we did actually.
And it looked so good. I cried a little. It really looked so much nicer. Of course, now they're running into the parking lot faster.
The drainage and grading project, I think, might have helped a little bit with that. I haven't been out there.
Yeah. Take this off for now? Like, it doesn't sound like it's an active thing.
Are you okay if we?
Yeah, and if it needs to be put back on, we'll put it back on. Yeah, sure.
Got it?
Hunter, have you talked about, do we still want Hunter to ask about parking at Slim Pond and storage facility? for the trailer?
Yes, we recently got a complaint that we don't have any parking now that school has started. Because you can't park at the elementary school during school hours. And our deputies are enforcing it more.
Park here, go that way. Yep.
That's our only one.
The complainee was a,
Maybe we need to let people know that, because I wouldn't know that you could park. Yeah, but there's a
Are we
connection.
designated on the parking list to park at Village Hall?
Us.
That might need to be updated.
I need to update the map on one.
I can reach out. I've got the contact for the president of the swim club. I just,
Let's do that.
Yeah, and I would say make,
Whoever's complaining about parking at the elementary school, is gonna park over there. Okay.
and I would say just make sure that our parking list map,
Yeah,
Has this
it's on my list. I got to update it
Okay.
now.
We're working on plant limits. We're working on the county for the French Street. We think we can take out the national night sponsorship of the experience. But we might overcome our organization.
I think y'all need some work.
the dry stream that we're working on. And then you guys are working on orientation.
It's on my back burner. I'll get to it.
One last little follow-up question about the dry stream bed. Hunter, is there in fact going to be irrigation available, or are we trying to do this without supplemental water? I was saying, there's an irrigation well, I was told, but.
So I mean, it is available.
But part of the bid, I mean, you don't want to plant plants and then that.
Yeah, I would potentially have to talk with Christina on that, because I have to find out how much we install irrigation lines, connected to the well. Because that's gonna be, if it's costly, then obviously.
If we're putting grass in plants, we better have irrigation.
Yeah.
And that's where I'll ask. My assumption would be to probably say, yeah, that's the current one. We will not have irrigation.
Okay.
Irrigators for the first year.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we'll have to have designated rotating teams to keep it alive until it's established. I was saying, if there's gonna be any kind of turf, that's gonna have to.
But, yeah, I think they're going. They're not gonna hold that bill. Oh, yeah.
You're talking about a kicker
Those
stand.
flip-flop things that you-
Yeah, that's a kicker. Yeah.
We have 2 of them in the cottage garden, tall, they're just, really 4 of them, sorry, and they do about a 22-foot span.
They throw
So-
tremendous amounts of water.
So it may not be built in, but there will be something to get them to establish.
We're having this hard time getting irrigation in first. We're trying to get water to the.
You guys will get an update about that tonight. Yeah, council will hear more about irrigation tonight.
John Marshall does.
Well, but hopefully some moving forward type of news.
We've approved like 3 vendors and you keep leaving us.
Yeah, there's actually, there's a vendor coming today as a follow-up visit to expedite his write-up because we've already approved his bid. He wanted to get it to you guys tonight because he's got some feedback. He wants to dialogue a little bit with his thoughts, he was going to take up to like a week or 10 days. And I said, can you help me out and get it to me before tonight's meeting? And he said, sure. So he's coming out here to do his field notes so he can give them to me before tonight.
Derek, have you, just a suggestion, if you're having trouble with getting vendors, there's a gentleman, John Marshall, who lives in Marvin, who does irrigation. He's retired. He may be somebody to reach out to and see if you take it on.
Yeah, you know, Lambeth Marshall,
Yeah.
the pottery lady,
Yeah.
that's her.
Sure. That's what he's done.
Like my guy was like, I'm out like 6 months.
Well, I think John's semi-retired. He may be available. And I don't know how extensive work he does, but it might be worth calling.
Just another person.
Sure. Yeah, I'll be glad to.
All right, anything else with ongoing action items? All right, we'll move on to board member comments. Bob?
No comment.
Lovely being here.
I just wanted to say, recently got a resignation letter from Dan Wilson, but just wanted to mention him and thank him for the time that he's put on the board because he brought a lot of expertise to certain areas. I did have a conversation with him about that. You know, he's got a young family and we meet during the day and work obligations. But he expressed that while he didn't know that he could spend the time here on the board, that he wanted to remain a engaged volunteer.
So like an advisor?
And yeah, and
Awesome.
so if we have projects, especially related to
Trails.
his initial, passion of the greenways and stuff. But, anytime we can kind of bring him in as we use these working groups and things like that, that he certainly wants to continue to be involved. So,
Wayfinding, he would be a good guy to ask about that.
but I just want to make sure we thank Dan for
Yes.
his time and everything he's done for us as well. Beyond that, do I hear a motion on the table to adjourn the Village of Marvin Parks Recreation and Greenway Board meeting here on September 13th at 10:05 a.m.?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Yes, I.
Aye.
Goodbye.
Can you talk about cancer?
John, have a good day.
You too.
Come on over here.
Landlords.
Yeah, and you're gonna go turn it to metal art.